Tonight at 7:30.
You guys lead them, they go ahead and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
Heavenly Hayas. Nobody messes with the nuns of Harlem. Their story tonight, live at 5.
Now, from the ATV News Center at every city and town in the Maritimes, this is the ATV Evening News, live at 5.
Good evening, everybody. It's Thursday, November 18th. I'm Paul Meunier.
And I'm Heather Proudfoot, standing in for Nancy Reagan, who's off tonight.
That's right. Taking the day off. The Thursday edition of Live at 5. And you, this morning, had an assignment that I know a lot of the political junkies around here were clamoring for.
That's right. Pierre Elliott Trudeau this morning, breakfast, afternoon tea with you. Begging the question, of course, is Trudeau mania back? Judge for yourself, because one of this country's most colorful and controversial prime ministers made a jet stop in the Maritimes today to rewrite history again. We'll tell you what he said later.
And we'll also have these stories tonight.
Okay. How much of a problem is violence against women in Canada? Well, tonight on Live at 5, we'll show you the results of a cross-Canada survey conducted by Statistics Canada. And the results just might surprise you.
I'm Carmel Smith in St. John. Coming up on Live at 5, some winter survival tips in case you get stranded on the highway.
And then we'll show you some of the top 100 gadgets, gizmos, thingamajigs, and whatchamacallums of the year, according to Popular Science.
All of that, including Yvonne Colbert on your side, coming up tonight on Live at 5. First, let's check in with Steve Murphy, who's working on the ATV Evening News at 6. Steve, what's up?
All right, thank you, Paul. Heather, good afternoon, everyone. Coming up on the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock tonight, police are investigating the brutal beating of an elderly woman. It happened in her own home, and she is now clinging to life. Police are appealing for information about what had happened. The story is coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Also on our broadcast tonight, a community in mourning. Residents of Notre Dame are grieving the death of 17-year-old Marcel Cormier. While the police are frustrated in their hunt for his killer or killers, there is still no sign of 14-year-old Marcia LeBlanc. Stories coming up at 6 o'clock. And also tonight, on the trail of another killer, police have stepped up their investigation of an unsolved murder that dates back almost a year. And there are new developments to report. We've got them coming up tonight on the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock. Right now, though, it's time for our first fast look at the maritime weather forecast. Here's meteorologist Richard Zarowski in the ATV Weather Center. Richard?
Thanks a lot, Steve. You're going to have to bundle up tonight. It's going to be a cold one. The ridge of high. The flow of air is switched through to the northwest. And that means the snuggle alert is in effect. I'll tell you all about it later on Live at 5. Now back to you, Steve.
Hey, your microphone's sounding a little frosty there, Richard. We'll have the weather for you here at 5:30. Then at 6 o'clock, all the day's top stories, including Rick Grant on a city getting taken for a ride. Question is, are the taxpayers being made to pay for a car that's maybe a little too luxurious? That story's coming up tonight in the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock, right after Live at 5, which continues now with Paul and Heather.
Thank you, Steve. And first at 5 tonight, 1 in 2, 2 in 4. The statistics are shocking. The stories chilling. Some frightening facts tonight as the scales of violence against women continues to swell. The problem is getting more and more difficult for Canadians to ignore.
Today, Statistics Canada released the results of a cross-Canada survey of 12,000 women, including Maritimers. The results have staggering implications. ATV's Jonathan Kay joins us now live from Halifax to explain what's in the survey. Jonathan, experts have been studying violence against women for decades now. What makes this survey so different?
Well, the manner in which it was conducted, Heather, there have been other surveys, you're right, but StatsCan tells us that this is the first time anywhere in the world that someone has done a scientific random survey to find out how prevalent the problem of violence against women is in the general population.
I think it is time we did something. I think denial, it's not nice to know that your neighbor or your friend is in a situation of violence. And we've tried to find ways as a society to bury our heads in the sand.
People who work with women suffering from violence say this survey will make the issue even more difficult to ignore. Between February and June of this year, Statistics Canada interviewed 12,300 Canadian women chosen at random. The results are accurate to within 1.2%, 19 times out of 20. Of all the women contacted, 34%, more than a third, say they've been physically assaulted at some time in their adult lives. 39% say they've been sexually assaulted. The categories are wide-ranging and include everything from the most minor to the most serious assaults, but the narrower categories are even more disturbing. 29% of all women married or involved in common-law relationships say they suffered violence at the hands of their spouse. The survey found the most prevalent form of marital violence was pushing, grabbing, or shoving, but 10% of all married women say the abuse or threats of abuse were so serious they feared for their lives. And fear among women seems widespread. 11% of all Canadian women have taken a self-defense course. 31% try to avoid walking past groups of teenage boys or young men. 60% of women drivers check the backseat of their car for intruders before getting in. And 67% lock the car doors while driving alone.
I don't think as a society we can continue to bury our heads in the sand. I think this is a very important document. And I think, again, the fact that it's collected, it's a random survey of the Canadian population. This was not information solicited by a certain target group. That has to speak to us.
Now, there's yet another disturbing element in this survey, Heather. Research has suggested that children who grow up witnessing abuse in their household are more likely to become abusers themselves. And this survey found that 39% of the women in violent marriages say their children witness the violence against them.
Jonathan, any good news in this report at all?
That really depends on your point of view, Heather. I mean, we can look at things such as awareness as being good news. For example, all of those precautions that you see women are taking. They're more aware of the risks that they face, but whether or not that's good news is debatable.
Thanks, Jonathan. Lots to think about there. Paul.
Heather, still with violence against women, date rape is a real problem at Canadian universities, as we know, and it has certainly been a much talked about subject at the University of New Brunswick, particularly after that article on date rape written by math professor Martin Yaxen. Now, as ATV's Laverne Stewart tells us tonight, a date rape forum held at UNB last night did not draw the crowd organizers have been hoping for.
This video shows what date rape can be like. It's been a heated subject on campus over the past week, mainly because of a controversial date rape article by Professor Martin Yaxen in the university's newspaper. But organizers wanted to steer clear from Yaxen and instead focus on the problem of date rape.
This is really an opportunity for everyone to have their say.
According to the Rape Crisis Center, date rape most often happens between two people who know one another and because of mixed signals and differing expectations.
When women call the line to talk about being sexually assaulted by someone that they know, they certainly suffer a lot of after effects. It's not merely an inconvenience. It's not something that is easily forgotten.
There are roughly 10,000 students here at UNB, but only about 100 showed up to hear this date rape forum. And very few stood up to ask questions or make comments.
Please, you have the power to reduce your risk of being a victim of unwanted sexual experience by staying in control when you drink.
And you try to teach them to protect themselves and all this and that, but when they do get in a situation, it's just deploring.
Did you think that more people would show up given what's been happening here at the university?
Yeah, I was surprised at the attendance. I expected more people to be concerned with what was going on because of everything that's going on in our campus right now.
And gave me more information, I would say, but the attendance, I thought there would be more people, really.
Yeah. In Fredericton, Laverne Stewart, ATV News.
A couple of other notes about last night's meeting. Martin Yaxen's son was in attendance videotaping the proceedings, and producers of the Phil Donahue Show have been making inquiries about having... Sure has come a long way, hasn't he? The world's most famous Mouse celebrated a big birthday today. Mickey Mouse turned 65. Mickey was originally named Mortimer, made his film debut in the Disney short Steamboat Willie, and it wasn't long before he became a star. Mickey remains the centerpiece of the Disney empire, and Mickey stays pretty busy in spite of his age, but it's unlikely he'll be applying for Social Security anytime soon, although he is now eligible for senior citizens discounts at many stores in the United States, we're told, and I'm sure he'd get a discount here in Canada, too.
And in Paris, a royal anniversary and a salute to all that's noble in art. The Louvre, home to what is probably the world's best-known art collection, is celebrating its 200th anniversary as a museum today. Originally built as a fortress, it grew into a sumptuous royal palace, but now it's the home of timeless art rather than mortal kings, and a bicentennial restoration has brightened its galleries and doubled its size.
200 years young. A couple of impressive milestones from away for you there. Unfortunately, no maritime milestones to report tonight. We will remind you that we are happy to give you milestones, 50 years, 60 years, that's marriages, and birthdays of 100 years or more. Simply send the details along with a clear color picture, 5 by 7 inches, and a self-addressed stamped envelope with sufficient postage, if you'd like the photo back, and mail it to us here, live at 5, Post Office Box 1653, Halifax. Our postal code is B3J2Z4, and we'll remind you that we cannot accept birthday or anniversary announcements on the telephone or at any of our ATV offices, so please send them by mail here to Live at 5.
And once again, here are the numbers for tonight's Live at 5 telephone poll. Our question was, Pierre Trudeau good or bad for Canada? If you think Trudeau's leadership and policies benefited the country, then call 1-900-273-0030. If you think Pierre Trudeau was bad for the country, the number to call is 1-900-273-0031. Remember, calls cost 50 cents. Our lines will be open until 4:30 tomorrow.
And when we return, Richard Sorowski with the complete maritime weather forecast and with a peek ahead to the weekend. Right, Richard? Okay, good. And we'll also have these stories tonight.
Colbert on your side tonight with a fish story. That's coming up later on Live at 5.
These kids are getting a bang out of science. It's the flying circus of physics. I'm Dan Beal with more coming up on Live at 5.
And with winter on the way, are you ready for the challenges of driving in ice and snow? You might think you are, but face it, when it comes to safety, you should be sure. Connell Smith with a driver's guide to winter when Live at 5 returns.
Thank you very much. I would I'm going to be remiss to not mention the fact that the competition this year for Coach of the Year, I think, was great in that three universities.
And that was Larry Utek, coach of the St. Mary's Huskies, as he was named Canadian University Football Coach of the Year. While he made it to the top of the football honors list, as you know, his team didn't. The Huskies were upended 37-23 last weekend by Calgary in the Atlantic Bowl. Calgary plays the University of Toronto on Saturday in the Vanier Cup in Toronto.
Yeah, that certainly was a tough break for the St. Mary's Huskies. They had a pretty good season, not the kind of season I think a lot of people were expecting, because in the early goings they had some really close calls, lost big to Acadia and nearly lost it in the Atlantic Conference Championship to Acadia. And I think after that game, when they came back in overtime, people thought that they would have what it took to go all the way this year, because they've been close many times, as you well know, Heather. But unfortunately, it was not to be. But Larry Utek, a good guy, and I think probably very deserving of Coach of the Year honors. And here's another good guy, Richard Zorowski, working on the weather forecast. He tells us he's got a peek ahead to the weekend. Right, Richard?
You got it, Paul. What we're looking at is an area of high pressure rolling in. But before I start with the weather, I wanted to wish my son his 10th birthday. Happy birthday, Brian. Now we can move on to the weather. What we're looking at is a ridge of high pressure moving through. That's going to be clearing the skies out overnight. If there's some clouds lingering, that's because of the warm water. But that should dissipate as the evening and night progresses, and we can expect to see some cold temperatures. As a matter of fact, getting down almost into double-digit frigid, but for now, what we can expect to see are clearing skies and cool temperatures. Low pressure center has now moved off to the east of Newfoundland, and area of high pressure ridging in through most of New Brunswick, and you can still see some cloud over Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island and Cape Breton Island. And as we take a look at some of the temperatures, for today, daytime highs really weren't all that hot up to the north. It was 0 to about minus 1 degree, and then we looked at about 3 to 6 degrees, if I can read the numbers correctly, in through the rest of the maritime regions. Down to the south, a little bit warmer, but you can see once the cold front came through, the temperature did fall rather dramatically, and these daytime highs were set first thing in the morning, around 3 or 4 in the morning. By tomorrow evening, the area of high pressure gets its turn to get pushed out. First the low, now the high. Another disturbance starting to brew over the southern areas of the Great Lakes will become our weather maker. That trough of low pressure all the way from the southern areas of Hudson Bay through James Bay and through the eastern sections of Great Lakes and Quebec, pushing right through just to the west of the maritime regions. And so we're going to start looking at a southwesterly flow tomorrow. That'll push the mercury up rather nicely. And of course, the temperatures anywhere between 3 and 7, possibly 8 degrees. And we can expect to see sunny conditions to start the day, pretty much widespread across the maritime regions. Unfortunately, some clouds are going to be rolling in with that disturbance by the evening and then tomorrow night coming in from the Great Lakes region. Of course, that'll become our weather maker. Some of the temperatures in New Brunswick, anywhere between 3 and 6 degrees. The good news is, for tonight, anywhere from -6 to -7 degrees. Looks like our computer has its own ideas of what it should be doing. Down in through the mainland of Nova Scotia, temperatures will be steady between -3 and -5 degrees tonight. So a rather cold night, and of course, we can expect to see temperatures on the cold side overnight in New Brunswick, -4 to -5, and then along the mainland of Nova Scotia tonight, temperatures between -3 and -6 degrees. So you're really going to have to bundle up. We are looking at some clear skies, but then tomorrow the sunshine and the southerly flow will start to push the mercury up rather nicely. As it does so, we're looking at a southerly flow instead of that cold northerly flow of air. Now, probability of sunshine. Well, for tomorrow, it's not too bad. With all the sunshine rolling in, we can expect to see a rather pleasant day with an 80% probability of sunshine. Then for Saturday, we're at a 20% probability of sunshine because of that disturbance rolling in from the Great Lakes, that big trough. Mild temperatures on Saturday, by the way. For Sunday, we're back into the sunshine as we are on Monday. There we're looking at probabilities of sunshine anywhere between 70 and 80%, so great weather coming up, but again, it's going to be on the cool side. So tomorrow, not too bad. Enjoy it. Great Friday coming up. Now, here's Paul.
All right, and as Richard can tell us, hopefully, if he knows what's good for him, without any glee in his voice, we are about to get snow, sleet, and ice as a maritime winter is about to descend on us, and of course that means treacherous driving conditions. Every winter, motorists find themselves stranded because there's cars gone off the road or they've gotten caught in a snowbank, and I'm sure Connell Smith is probably one of them because I know where you live. You're not a city guy. You have quite a distance to travel every day.
I'm not that far out of town, Paul, but a few years ago I was traveling outside the Maritimes and I had occasion to get stuck in a snowdrift. Fortunately, there was a farmhouse quite nearby and I was able to walk over there and get help. But this happens a lot, and I wasn't the first person to call there.
You want to know why?
William Bell lives halfway up Kerstead Mountain on the Trans-Canada. It's a 5-kilometer-long hill. Every winter, stranded motorists come to his door looking for help.
Freeze up and run out of gas, and some of the cars just quit.
Bell says at least half a dozen unfortunate travelers come to his door each season. The same happens to his neighbors.
There isn't a soul around this neighborhood that wouldn't get up at any time of the night and help them out.
Bell says the problem is often with cars that aren't properly maintained. Gary Hughes agrees. He owns a tow company in Sussex. He often rescues stranded motorists. He recalls one serious case last winter.
Well, the lady was just about out of it, I would say. We had quite a job with her. We had to actually wrestle her into one of the trucks to get her warmed up, and then I guess I was there about 10 or 15 minutes before I realized that she had a husband with her, and he was up at a farmhouse, and they were trying to thaw him out in the farmhouse.
The husband had gone to the farmhouse to get help. Vince Galbraith of the CAA says drivers can prepare for such eventualities.
Okay, basically what we have are some components that are good.
Galbraith says it's a good idea to carry such things as sand or salt, a first aid kit, flashlight, blanket, shovel, flares or reflectors, and chocolate bars for energy.
It's surprising what heat you could get out of a candle. Make sure there's a tin can that goes with it and matches, and have that in your trunk just in case of emergency.
Galbraith says it's important to keep the wipers, lights, and tires in good condition. Well, I really like the part about the chocolate bars because, these things are really handy. You don't have to have an emergency to eat one of these.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm a little under the weather today. I think I'll eat that chocolate bar.
They make great paperweights, too, if you ever do one. They tell you, by the way, Paul, if you're using a shovel to pull yourself out or dig yourself out, they say don't work too hard at it because you might need that energy to ward off the cold later on. So
yeah.
Spare yourself.
Yeah, or unwrap that chocolate bar, right? And, it's a funny thing. I was talking to a guy today who said he did have a candle in his car, unlike, I'm sure, quite a few of us, but no matches. So you should make that list and check it twice and make sure you get everything and be prepared. Thanks very much, Connell.
Thank you.
Winter coming. Dreadful thought, isn't it? Heather?
When you're driving down an icy road with tons of steel and cargo behind you, safety is your #1 priority. And that's certainly true for maritime truckers. who, just like the rest of us, are preparing for winter driving and keeping an eye on the safety signs. ATV's Dan McIntosh went for a ride and brought back this story.
Try to always give yourself an extra little length of time.
Bill Muirhead's been a professional truck driver for almost 40 years, with millions of miles to his credit. He's learned a few secrets for safe winter driving.
You reach out and you feel the mirror arms are starting to ice up. You're getting quite a rapid change in weather, so what you do is you just start to ease off on the fuel a little bit. You got to be more prepared for it.
We all know the first rule of winter driving is to slow down, and police say that's especially true for truckers, who must show more respect for the weather.
The vehicles often in bad weather handle much better than a passenger vehicle simply because they have so much weight.
Truck drivers can only be on the road for 10 hours at a time. Muirhead says the good ones factor bad weather into their schedule. Using care and caution, Muirhead says a professional trucker can drive in just about any weather conditions. However, there is one winter driving hazard that even truckers worry about the most.
And some people tend to be overcautious on black ice. And when you do get into black ice, the best thing to do is to either park it or wait for a while till your salt trucks or your sand trucks come around.
In Pictou County, Dan McIntosh, ATV News.
And still to come on Live at 5, the Taekwondo Nuns of Harlem. And when we return, ATV's on your side with Yvonne Colbert. Tonight, a case of the mistaken identity, a fishy story.
I'm not the man that you think I am.
Friday, Al Pacino is back as Michael Corleone.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
The Godfather, Part 3, Friday on ATV.
Have you discovered multigrain Cheerios?
Multigrain. Wouldn't like it.
It's interesting.
Well, they gotta be heavy. Light, crispy.
Just a little bit sweet. 4 different kinds of those.
Discover the taste of multigrain Cheerios.
What are you staring at? Go try it.
Sounds Fantastic is proud to present Pioneer Pre-Christmas 1993. You'll be blown away by the ultimate in home entertainment, Pioneer's Laser Home Theater. Pioneer Home Stereo Systems on special from $9.99. Pioneer Car Stereos from $199 to $5,099. All with guaranteed satisfaction or your money back. And free delivery anywhere in Atlantic Canada. Drop in or call Sounds Fantastic toll-free today.
And this is the last chance to get your needle if you live in the greater Moncton area. The final makeup clinic for meningitis shots goes tonight until 8 p.m. at the Lions Center on Mark Street. Over 100 people were on hand as soon as the doors opened at 4 o'clock. To date, close to 50,000 people in southeastern New Brunswick have been immunized against meningitis. And now over to Steve Murphy with the 6 o'clock headlines.
All right, Heather, thank you. Here's what's coming up tonight in your ATV Evening News. In about 23 minutes from now, an elderly woman is the victim of a brutal beating. She is now clinging to life in hospital in St. John. Police are appealing to the public for help in finding the people responsible. Complete details coming up at 6 o'clock. Also tonight, a community in mourning. Residents of Notre Dame grieving the death of a popular teen and the disappearance of another. Police are frustrated in their hunt for the people responsible. Also at 6 o'clock tonight, the police step up their investigation of an unsolved murder dating back a year ago. A 53-year-old music teacher was bludgeoned to death in his home. Now the police have new leads, and we have the exclusive details coming up tonight on the ATV Evening News at 6 o'clock, right after Live at 5, which continues right now with Paul Meunier.
All right, thank you, Steve. Busy news day. ATV reporters around the region working on those stories for 6 o'clock, about 20 minutes from now. But right now, it's time to check in with Yvonne Colbert, who's got another episode of On Your Side, and it's kind of a fishy story tonight, huh?
Well, that's right, Paul. This isn't about the one that got away. Rather, it's a case of mistaken identity.
Well, I had seen them over there and decided to read about them, and I found that they sounded really neat and that they were indeed really rare.
Stephen Wiggle thought something was fishy after he got his leaf fish home and started comparing them to those in the books. He wanted South American leaf fish. He identified the ones he purchased as spotted climbing perch.
I fish, and perch don't really strike me as a neat fish.
Stephen purchased his fish at Pets Unlimited in Dartmouth. When he noticed a marked difference between what he wanted and what he got, he contacted the store.
I called them back to tell them that they had made a mistake, that they weren't the fish they said they were, and that I would like to return them for credit or something. And they turned me down flatly and said that I had to keep the fish, that, well, you know, that they were leaf fish. They had contacted their head office, and indeed they were leaf fish, and wouldn't admit that they weren't what they said they were.
Stephen contacted On Your Side asking for help, so we called store manager Derek Walker. Our conversation with him was the first he heard of the problem. He checked it out with the store's supplier and says there's a logical explanation.
There are several types of leaf fish that are, by the way, the common name of the fish is leaf fish, which is like a slang around the world. And this particular type we had in the store was an African spotted leaf fish. And apparently Mr. Wiggle was looking for a South American leaf fish was the fish he was looking for. So I believe it's just a case of mistaken identity.
He says he's been unable to confirm Stephen's allegations about the way he was treated by staff, but as soon as we explained the situation, Walker readily agreed to fix it.
If his fish are alive and he thought he was getting a South American leaf fish, by all means, we'll exchange them. And if we can get the South American leaf fish in, what he's looking for, we'll try to get those in for him as well.
Otherwise, what will you do?
Otherwise, well, he'll be able to pick out any other kind of fish that's at our disposal.
Very good.
I have to tell you that Derek Walker, the manager of Pets Unlimited, is one of the most pleasant people I've ever dealt with in this job. I mean, he was faced with a situation where he was being told his staff hadn't reacted in the way in which they should, and that he had an unhappy customer, and there was not a moment's hesitation in saying, yes, we'll give him a credit, we'll do what we can to help him, and that sure
now, reading
makes my
between the
job
lines
easy.
here, Yvonne, just reading between the lines is, well, like when you call people, some of them are a little, you know, quarrelsome, perhaps?
Well, just not too happy to hear from me.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation. But he really was a very pleasant man.
Yeah, well, so that's resolved then.
It is.
Case closed.
That's right. I think he's actually, that Stephen is taking his fish back tomorrow.
Okay.
You just got to, I guess the moral of the story is you got to keep your leaf fish straight.
I don't know the difference between fresh and saltwater fish. Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, a terrific series that you had on new car nightmares, and another one is about to be resolved, I understand, tomorrow.
That's right, tomorrow. It's a really, it was a very interesting story, and finally we're going to have one very happy car customer when all is said and done. So stay tuned tomorrow night for that one.
Okay, and in the meantime, if you have anything you'd like to bring to our attention here at Live at 5, and specifically for Yvonne Colbert On Your Side, here's how you can correspond with her.
You can give us a call on the answering machine, area code 902. The number is 493-3404. Leave a brief message, or you can write P.O. Box 1653, Halifax, Nova Scotia, B3J2Z4. And Paul, I've got to tell you, I got a message on my machine from one lady saying, why do you always say it's faster to write? Well, it's faster to write because it's more easy for me to get back to you typing you a letter than it is to calling you. But I have to tell you that it's impossible for me to respond to everyone. This program has just taken off to such a degree. If I think I can help you, I'll get back to you really quickly. Otherwise, please be patient. Eventually, you will get a response in the mail from me.
There you have it. Good to know. Thanks, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
Heather?
A quick question. What could you build with 100 popsicle sticks? When we return, see some engineering marvels built by PEI high school students. And we'll also take a gander at some of the top 100 gadgets of 1993. That's next on Live at 5.
Let Castle Building Center show you how you can build that dream you can have it now.
With the buying power of over 240 stores across Canada, Castle can guarantee you quality, value, and service. Whether it's a minor renovation or a major building project, Castle has the tools and materials for every job, along with the friendly, helpful advice you've come to expect. Castle Building Centers, a friend in your community.
These locally owned Castle Building Centers are part of a national organization and an important part of your community.
Young man, have you seen this? Why, it's enough to put even me in the Christmas spirit.
What is it, sir? A newspaper?
Look at all these great gifts. And with Canadian Tire's guaranteed low prices, why, even I approve.
Is it a brochure?
No.
A magazine?
No. Here, have a look.
It's a flyer.
Look for the Canadian Tire Weekly Christmas Flyer. Canadian Tire lets you give like Santa and save like Scrooge.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that this is one of those commercials with hidden subliminal images. No, this is just another batch of Clancy's Amber Ale. Notice its true amber color? Notice it's naturally aged with no preservatives. Notice the... Hey, what is that in there? Oh, it's a subliminal image. Sorry, we snuck a couple in. Oh, and notice the bottle. Not very subliminal. In fact, it's right there. Clancy's Amber Ale. The color of smooth.
In a far stretch of sea, the wind howled with all...
At the store. You can't beat those Christmas prices. Ask about Wakey's Lifetime Price Protection Guarantee. Largest selection of TVs, VCRs, and stereos in Atlantic Canada. Home, portable, notebook, computers, fax machines, cellular phones, famous names, Hitachi, Sharp, Sony, and many more. Up to $2,500 instant credit to qualified customers. No down payment, no interest, no monthly payment for up to 6 months. Or use Visa, MasterCard, Wakey Wheatley's card. If you missed that free Christmas catalog, pick up your free copy at the store. It's happening this week at Wakey Wheatley's.
Rush was on at Nova Scotia Liquor Commission outlets today. The Beaujolais rush, that is. The wine is from the first crop of pressed, bottled grapes from southern Burgundy, flown in from France in very limited quantities for what's now an annual event among wine connoisseurs. Hey, you ever wonder what they'll think of next? Well, the editors of Popular Science magazine make that their job, and once a year they pick their 100 top gizmos and gadgets. Miles O'Brien takes a look at the best of what's new.
And as you clamp down on the jaw...
Getting a grip on the future isn't always easy, unless, of course, you come here.
We feel like this has been the greatest innovation in the last, well, the 20th century.
Debatable, but the people who develop these adjustable pliers have reason to crow. Theirs is one of 100 products honored in New York by Popular Science magazine as the best of what's new in 1993.
If you consider that there are thousands and thousands of things that we write about in Popular Science, not to mention what else goes on in the world, to be among the 100 best is something.
It's a vibrant and varied picture of products and projects of all shapes, sizes, and price tags.
It's $3,300.
$1,695 list.
In Japan, it's 288,000 yen.
We think it's in the 400 million range.
That's the cost of Phase 2 for the DCX, the reusable rocket successfully test-flown by the Air Force and McDonnell Douglas in August. Its developers say they're just getting off the ground.
We hope eventually someday that after the turn of the century that we'll have routine travel to space because it'll be so low cost.
For $100, you can buy this table saw attachment, which uses a cushion of air to make heavy pieces of wood feather light.
Is this something every home woodworker needs or wants?
Well, anybody who's serious about woodworking would be interested in this machine.
Here the phones are smarter, the television's thinner, the checks neater, and the camcorders seem to have a mind of their own.
Why don't you say something, Jeff?
Hey, get over here.
So is this guy out of a job here?
Not yet. We're still obviously going to need him, but for now, at least it makes the home viewer a little easier.
Walking through this exhibit, it becomes clear when it comes to innovations in consumer electronics, Japanese companies hold the bragging rights. That's not to say Yankee ingenuity is dead. It's just a little more esoteric.
Consider the Cheetah. Cyclist Chris Huber rode this carbon composite cowled two-wheeler to a world record 68.73 miles an hour.
It just sort of woke a lot of people up to the fact that if they put some engineering design into their bikes, that they could go faster.
But Cheetah engineers say peddling this design to consumers is impractical. But here's something useful for plain old bike riders worried about losing their plain old bikes. The future can be so alarming, but if you can't stop progress, you might as well cheer it on.
And as for that guy in the cheetah, I think we featured him on the Plays of the Week, crashing that high-tech piece of machinery.
I'm sure you did. Now, when you say flying circus, you may think of trapeze artists or the classic British Monty Python comedy show. But science was a flying circus for high school students from across PEI today.
Yeah, it was the annual Flying Circus of Physics competition staged by the Holland College Engineering Technology Department. And ATV's Dan Vio was right in the middle of the action.
Popsicle sticks, wire, Nerf balls, little buckets of pennies, the stuff fun science is made of. These high school kids from across Prince Edward Island were competing to do things like shoot Nerf ball baskets and build their own fixed links with limited resources.
The thing is, how are we going to figure this tax? Oh, you already sawed it off, did you? No? Cable runs down and up to the towers. Down, up.
Well, I think it's an excellent idea. Part of the objective, I think, is to make people conscious or aware of science and engineering and technology. And I think all of those things are very important in this day and age.
Of course, there were torture tests, too.
Getting out and trying and doing stuff and making stuff, and it's better. I like it.
You're going to be an engineer when you...
No, I don't think so. I don't think I'll get a job on the bridge.
The real winners here, every one of the young people that took part and had fun. This kind of practical application of science can be the motivation for a career in the knowledge-based industries of the future.
If Canada is to remain competitive, we really must encourage people to look at careers in engineering, careers in science. It will be the future of the country, and we're losing engineers and scientists at an alarming rate.
The Kensington bunch added a little excitement to the lifting the little bucket of pennies competition. In Charlottetown, Dan Vio, ATV News.
Now, school could be like that every day, huh?
Science is such fun.
Yeah, as Richard Zarowski would attest. And you know, it's funny, I smell something around here. I don't know if...
Science, an experiment.
Richard's working on a little experiment right now. Well, we're going to take a break and investigate that. Still lots ahead on Live at 5, including Richard Zarowski's Wake Up Weather and the weather fact of the day. That's coming. That's a favorite of ours here on Live at 5.
And we also have the Notre Dame Nuns of Harlem.
I guess the first month she was here, I was like, oh, a nun? You gotta be kidding. I can't fight with her.
But as soon as we got hit by one of them, we changed our minds very quickly.
They're doing excellent. They're doing excellent. 3, 2, 1.
3 card. AD standby to dissolve to 2. And dissolve to 2.
And welcome back to Live at 5. Now, a heavenly...